So hopefully you can relate a little bit to what I'm going to be discussing, but it's on AI personas. Has anyone worked with AI personas at all in regards to, okay, a little bit? So I am a professor at Boise State University. I teach a couple classes. I have about 250 students right at this moment, so I have a lot of students, and it is actually finals week for me, so you can imagine that I'm a little high on the caffeine right now because I was grading until midnight last night because they want the grades like within 24 hours, because that's how my students are all the time. So an AI persona is what I created out of complete desperation when I was teaching a course. I was expecting a large amount of enrollment for a course in the fall, and what had happened was that they kind of forgot to list it, you know, logistics, things like that. I had no students. I had a grant writing on this class. I needed students, and I was panicking. Fortunately, I have students right now, but that was after the fact, and so I needed fake students. I tried to get real students and said, oh, you know, you should intern with me and take my class. I could see what it was like, and I got no one. So I thought, okay, so what am I going to do right now? Because I'm going to have to report on the success of my course. I have classes on engagement. It's basically a bunch of students that are rural. They're doing some type of engagement in the community. They're doing projects of some sort. And the problem is that I needed someone to do it, and so I created AI personas. I give an example here really quickly on AI personas because I want to explain that I use ChatGPT the majority of the time. It's a bias of mine. We do have we have Gemini, we have Copilot. Gemini and ChatGPT are offered at Boise State. I like ChatGPT for a really odd reason that I think it's not as friendly as Gemini. I know that seems odd, but when I'm emailing a student, sometimes I have to make sure that I say it in a nice way because I have a legal background, and sometimes they think I'm too forward. So I test it out. I guess Gemini is way too nice to the student, and ChatGPT is to the point, but nice and direct. That's where my bias actually comes from. But to give you an example, I put in the same prompt for what an AI persona looks like. The first one is ChatGPT, the second one is Gemini, the third one is Copilot. So there are similar, so students can use all of them, but I lean towards ChatGPT. So let me provide some examples focused on ChatGPT. It is incorporated. I use it for all my classes. My students use it as well, to give you an idea. I am a professor, so I mainly use it with students, but I've used it for other reasons as well. The first one is student support. I've been teaching my students right now to work with their own academic coach advisor, or I would also call it a career coach, because I have a group of students in one class that's 20 students, and there's a process where they have 3 minors. They don't have a bachelor's degree. It's a little bit different. We call it the 3D. So they have 3 minors. Every single student in the class has 3 different minors. I can't coach them individually. So I've created some chat bots, or I have created some prompts in order for them to feed it to Gemini or ChatGPT about, here are my 3 different majors or minors, and what kind of jobs would you consider, what directives should I go through, etc. I'm just testing that out right now. I also have students use it for time management, because that's the #1 reason they don't do assignments on time, or they when they're doing a project, it's very project-based, I have them tell the ChatGPT what the project is and to break it in a timeline that matches my semester. So that seems to work really well, and then they kind of follow it. I mean, they have to follow it, right? If they don't follow it, it's useless. I cannot tell them. I am still getting emailed as of last night about, hey, I'm missing an assignment I was supposed to do a month ago. Can you accept it now? So there's still issues. Obviously, there's still issues. The instructor assistant AI persona, I design a lot of my classes using ChatGPT when I am struggling with an assignment. So for example, if I am doing a specific community project, let's say it's in biology, my background is law and education, I will go in there and say, okay, can you give me an idea of what a student can do as a project related to biology? And that's what I do, and then I kind of change it around and shift it so it meets certain learning objectives, etc. You can also do this like in the workplace, if there's certain types of assignments or activities that you want your employees to do. I'm working on something right now where faculty we do a lot of professional development. I'm sure that you do a lot of professional development in your field as well. It is very, very boring for faculty to do professional development.
Yep.
It's very boring for me to present it and then to watch. I have noticed this is a dilemma, and I have tried everything. So I'm now looking into an interactive book club, and I have been brainstorming with ChatGPT on how to do that, where they're designing the book as they read it, in a sense. Because it's boring. We listen to so many things all the time. Our attention spans are it's really bad compared to students. I have a horrible attention span. That's why Zoom is really bad when there's no people on it.
I know, agreed.
Yes, especially if you're lecturing to students and all they have is a block, a little black box that reminds me of a really bad MTV video. Really, really bad. How am I doing on time? Okay, community engagement. All right. Community engagement is where I do the most in. I'll go into that a little more detail. Culture exchange. Students are now practicing on ChatGPT different ways to communicate in different languages. Something I cannot help them with. I am half Asian. I speak nothing. My mom taught me no Taiwanese, and so if I need something, I go into a translator, unfortunately, which is really upsetting for my mom. And then their career coach, I'm also testing that right now. I'm using myself as a test where I'm like, this is the job I want. Here's the job description. Here's my resume. Write a cover letter for me, and it's working out beautifully.
Awesome.
I have to change it, of course, a little bit, but it makes my life so much easier to do it. So once I figure it out, I'm going to have to teach students actually develop their job applications, etc. Because I teach mainly seniors at Boise State, the majority. All right, how am I doing on time again? I have to look at my time.
You're doing great. 8 minutes. You're on.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go really fast over this, and then I want to get into my favorite persona. So this is, I use assignment testing like you mentioned. You can create tests and quizzes. I do that. I pull up probably like a YouTube video that's like a TED Talk, and I'm like, write 5 questions on it for students to take so they're not disengaged with the material. They actually answer the questions that whatever ChatGPT or Gemini created. Accessibility, I tested out on, I test certain assignments on fake personas to see how they'll react to it, which I'll get to in a minute since I have 8 minutes. Student-centered course design, I'm focusing on students more than anything. And then preventing bias is something I'm looking into. I'm going to be teaching a class on bias in AI. This is really very, very interesting. And I don't know exactly the direction I'm going to be going in, other than the fact that I've noticed it so significantly, especially in images. It is extremely biased in images, I've noticed. Okay, so let me give you my first example of AI persona. This is Colette. I named her after my best friend in elementary school. I did not make her. This was AI that created Colette based on the information. I fed all this information to them because my average student is 35 years old, believe it or not. And this is the background that I usually come across. Divorced, working full-time, etc. So I inputted all this information about this particular student because I didn't have any students in my course, as I remind you. I need the fake person. So I go into ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, you're Colette now, and here's my assignment. Please do it, and then it just knocks it out, creates an assignment for me, and then I have the image or the idea of Colette. I realized that maybe Colette will be used for everything I do from now on, and then I don't have the perspective of a different student. That was my concern. So I created Joey. I was very excited about Joey. I don't have a lot of students that are 20 years old. I have a few, but this is a background that I kind of got from other places. I've taught at a different couple of places, and this is where I got Joey from. I also added the background, the challenges, the strengths, the goals, etc. And they designed, AI designed Joey with a lot of significant input from me because I was trying to get a different racial background. That was really, really hard to do, as a matter of fact. I tested the same assignment on Joey last semester, and his response was completely different than Colette. And I was shocked by this because the experiences of my students vary so much that I decided that, well, I didn't decide, I figured out that I was actually biased because I was grading students on an average of, you have world experience, you've been working for a while. I wasn't used to a 20-year-old student, whereas other professors are not used to a 37-year-old female. And I wanted to make sure that my class was open to everyone, and I wasn't grading them based on personal life experiences, which I think I was doing. So because of that, I also started doing that with assignments that I thought might be written biasly. So I would input it into ChatGPT and like, you need to highlight what I'm saying that is not appropriate or it's wrong or someone doesn't understand. For example, if I'm using the reference like 7-Eleven, there are some people that have no idea what 7-Eleven is. I'm being biased. Or if I was using characters in tests, like Cinderella, I was trying to make it light. Some of them had no idea what I was talking about. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am being the worst professor ever because I'm being biased in my own tests. Yes?
So do you get feedback right away on which parts they didn't understand, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so so there was some directions the student was complaining about, not for my class, of course, for another. And I said, okay, well, let's break it down. So I put it in there, and I said, do it at this like 8th grade level because it's the average level. And then it was able to explain it in better detail, even though it was the same result. It was written differently. So I rewrote all my rubrics based on the same thing because my rubrics were so academic. It's like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this so academically? I mean, what's the point I'm trying to make? So I rewrote all my rubrics based on ChatGPT telling me that my rubrics sucked. In a really nice way. Like, Dr. Sass, you really should change the words here a little bit because this is somewhat aggressive. So I'm like, okay, I don't like you, ChatGPT. This is what I've been using it for my students. My students have to work with community partners, which is also businesses. I'm trying to do it with actually for-profit businesses, but my focus has been community members. Oops. We can't go to Dottie yet. Okay, I have 3 minutes. So this is a community partner. My students have to work with an actual community partner. I make them practice with a ChatGPT AI persona community partner before they actually have to go out into the world and talk to that person. Why? Because they don't know how to talk to that person. Meaning, like my own niece doesn't even know how to use a phone to call someone. Like she refuses to call on the phone. It is something that she's extremely uncomfortable with. So I thought, oh, all right, so what do we do? So they type into ChatGPT or Gemini what type of nonprofit they want to work for, and they give it information, and then they have a conversation back and forth with this fictitious nonprofit organization. This was all created by the AI. They named it, they named the executive director. I just said generally what I wanted to focus on, and then they have a full-fledged conversation with that nonprofit. Once I've done it, I feel like they're ready to go out into the community and actually have a conversation. And they have felt that this works good for them because they're already nervous in the first place of making physical contact with another human in rural locations. And I get that. I'm trying to remember when I was nervous, but you know, I didn't have internet when I was in college. I mean, I had to go to a library and check out books. It's like horrific thoughts. They're like, what's a book? And then I know I'm running out of time, so I'll just hurry up and finish with Dottie. Dottie is where I'm working with, I teach AI to seniors. And so based on creating the nonprofit, now I created a person that I can work with when I'm creating presentations for the Senior Citizen Center. I use Dottie and test out my presentations and information on her. Yeah, so that's Dottie.
Great.
They named her, they designed her. If you look below her hands, they're all funky, so they're cut off because it's AI. Yeah, I've been actually teaching at the Senior Center for the last couple of months based on talking to Dottie going, I don't know what I'm supposed to be presenting on, what do you need to know? That's how it all started. All right, I think I'm right on time. Am I right on time?
You're doing great.
Okay.
Amazing.
All right, I think I'm done now. Someone's here.
I can unplug you. Yes, ma'am. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Yes, you should be able to plug just right in.
You are awesome. Thank you for doing that.
You're amazing. I would love a copy of that and to talk to you about this.
Sure, sure. I forgot to show my link.
Are you human?
I have a link with all the
Look at
prompts.
you. You don't even need
this.
And this just happens to be my Logic Clicker. Do you want to use it or no?
Sure, yeah, great. I really need a timer.
USB-C or A?
I need a timer.
A.
Go for it.
Yeah.
We'll see if that works. Feel the whirl.
And then the mic's on the table, it's just for the recording.
Yes, it does. Awesome. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Jen Elbek. I am an instructional designer in the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning at the University of Idaho, and today I'm going to talk to you about my model that I developed. I will say it is a simple model, so when you see it, you'll probably go, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's very simple, but I feel like it was necessary, something I hadn't seen yet. So I wanted to develop it to combine what I do as an instructional designer with AI to support better educational outcomes, teaching and learning, faculty development, student success, all of that. Really quick show of hands, how many of you are either an instructional designer, an educational developer, or you deal with faculty development? Okay, awesome. So there are some people here. So this is for everybody, but it's really very much focused to you. So okay, so here's the model. I'm going to describe it first, and then I'm going to try and talk about it more. So like I said, it's pretty simple. The idea is we got the foundation here. Instructional designers and educational specialists or developers would be the foundation, be at the bottom, which supports the connection between EBTPs, which is evidence-based teaching practices. And the idea is by helping faculty to learn about and apply evidence-based teaching practices, it helps to reduce some of the threats that AI can present in higher education through improved student engagement. And then AI, well, technically this comes first. AI reduces the faculty work burden, freeing up time to apply EBTPs. Because the thing I hear the most from faculty is, I don't have time to do that. So I don't have time to make my classes better. I don't have time to improve my teaching. But AI, if applied appropriately with the support of instructional designers, can help to reduce that burden and then make it so that they can apply those evidence-based teaching practices, again, reducing some of the threats that AI presents, right? And so then that increases faculty development and increases student success. Like I said, pretty simple, right? Okay, so let's go into it a little deeper. So here's some of the powers of AI and ID collaboration. So what AI offers is it can automate things, certain things. You don't want to automate everything, right? Because then you're taking away the role of the teacher. And there are plenty of things that AI cannot do that a faculty person can do, right? There are certain things that make teaching more accessible through AI that is very specific to digital learning in general that you can't really do in face-to-face learning, right? Interactive elements. What we do is we, as instructional designers, by the way, ID stands for instructional design, if you didn't know. So what we do is we provide pedagogical expertise, oops, I'm going the wrong way, and course design strategies, student engagement techniques. So we help to build those things in. We help humanize the process, right? And then all of those things combined can save time, create solutions that save time, comprehensive course development, and then the ultimate goal, which is enhanced student outcomes, right? Okay, so going back to that model, we want to free up that time for faculty to invest in better teaching practices. And so what are some of those better teaching practices? So delivering content in a more effective way through human-based learning, so things like interactive lectures instead of just being the sage on the stage and wah-wah-wahing at your students, right? Being interactive with them and creating that human connection that students are really craving, and it's missing a lot of the time. And so like, what's the difference between just doing that and going online and finding the information on your own? It's about like really like face-to-face, keep pushing the wrong button, face-to-face, or not even just face-to-face, but interaction even in asynchronous courses where it's very like quality and individualized. You get to learn from an expert in their field. That's the value of higher education. You get to learn from an expert who knows what they're doing, right? And so AI can't replace that, so you don't want to remove the human aspect of it. Doing collaborative learning with students, bringing in other experts to contribute to that, building meaningful relationships with your students. And so another aspect of evidence-based teaching practices that's really effective is developing a healthy classroom culture, right? And that includes cultural responsiveness, so finding out your students' backgrounds and incorporating that into the class. Promoting a growth mindset where you're saying, it's okay to make mistakes in this class. In fact, please do, because this is an opportunity for growth and not punishing them unnecessarily for that, right? Building that mutual respect in your class, saying, I'm going to treat you not as my subordinate, but as someone who's building this learning experience with me together, right? And then, of course, if you know anything about universal design for learning, it's offering students choice in how they either engage in the learning or express how they learn. Like, so, offering them different ways of showing what they've learned, right? Make sure I'm not cutting too close. Okay. Creating meaningful learning experiences through real world and relevant things, right? So career readiness is a big one. Students aren't going to school. People hate, some people hate when I say this, but it's the truth. Students aren't going to school anymore to become intellectuals. They're going because it can increase their economic mobility, that they want to get a job after graduating. And so building that into the course, doing service learning opportunities that gives back to the community, creating authentic tasks that actually mean something to the student, it's relevant to their lives. And then, of course, like I said, if you're a faculty person, expert guidance. You are there guiding their learning and helping them build through that process. Okay, and here's some of the threats of AI that can be mitigated by applying these evidence-based teaching practices. So academic dishonesty, the perspective that higher education is losing its value, and then lack of human connection. So by working together with AI, us instructional designers or educational developers, we can help to, I don't know if I would say we prevent it totally, we can reduce it, we can dissuade it. We can help show students the value of higher education by connecting with us and connecting them, like I said, because as the experts, we can guide them and help them grow their knowledge in a sort of, the word organic comes to mind, but in a way that really allows them to take ownership of their learning rather than just being like a passive learner, right? And then, of course, building connections with each other that not only helps them feel like they're not alone in their learning process, but then making connections that last them in their, in their career building phases. So making connections across networks that help them advance their careers in the future. So, all right, so let's go back to that model. So this kind of like reviews everything we said. So remember, evidence-based teaching practices, when applied effectively with the help of instructional designers and educational specialists, can reduce the threat presented by AI. And, and then, applying AI in an effective way can reduce faculty burden so that they can apply those evidence-based teaching practices. And really, I would probably start from here and work that way. But, and to give an example, these slides, if you liked these slides, by the way, has anyone seen this before, these slides, this format? So this is called Gamma AI app. And I basically took an outline to use myself as an example and connecting it back to this model. I made an outline for myself and I plugged it into the Gamma AI app and I said, make me slides. And it did it in seconds and they were beautiful. They were really well done. I would just go in and edit a few things. But the first time I used this to develop like a workshop, I realized because I had saved so much time on doing slides, which had taken me hours before in PowerPoint, I could now focus on the delivery of the content. And that next presentation was so smooth and so beautiful, and that's the power of AI. That's how it can help you as a tool to make your teaching and learning more effective. So I like to use that as an example. So that's essentially it. Here's some just next steps. Any questions? Because I still have some time, so this would be the Q&A time if you have questions about this. Yes?
Just real quick.
Yeah.
As you're working as an instructional designer with faculty, so doing those dreaded workshops that, again, I've been there, done that kind of thing on both sides.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of how you model that process so that it really, when they finish that workshop with you, they go, oh my gosh, we've just been played because she just did this. So tell me how you kind of model that for them.
So like
The
showing as an
process.
example.
Yes.
Well, and it's not perfect. I mean, there are times when I make mistakes too,
No.
but I do try to as much as possible. So, for example, in my presentations, and I say presentations because a lot of what I've been giving lately are. So we have this, as an example, we have this series of workshops called Wired Wednesdays. They're only 30 minutes. They're very short.
Yes.
Not a lot of time for interaction, but we do have like longer form versions, which. In that case, I try to build in interaction. So I'll do interactive activities like Mentimeter, and I'll have them, do like a question on the screen, and then they contribute their answers, and everybody can see them, and we'll talk about them. And it's low stress, low stakes, because some people don't want to talk. They'd rather just type out their answer. I give them the opportunity to do that, and I give them the opportunity to speak as well. So through doing that, I'm trying to model that interaction that I hope to see faculty providing in their courses.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect.
yeah. Yes.
What are some strategies that for using AI to like discourage plagiarism or other things to like make sure that they're actually like doing the work?
Can you restate that? Sorry,
Sure,
I'm
sorry.
having a hard time understanding.
Like what kinds of strategies do you provide faculty? I mean, obviously we want to encourage faculty to use AI, but what are some ways that we can still use AI, but that help to kind of avoid students from using it unethically?
So the first would be it's multi-factor. So the first would be I don't want to say policy, but guidelines. If you're faculty, you set those guidelines in your class saying, like, you can either use it or not, and here is what I expect. If you're going to use it, you can use it for these specific things, but don't use it to think for you. Don't use it to do your critical thinking for you. And so that's one way. And of course, like I said, applying practices that where you're interacting with the students helps to dissuade academic dishonesty, because they're getting like a very fulfilling experience from that. That's another factor. Oh. And then the final factor would be building in things like formative assessment, which is low stakes. So a lot of times students will cheat on tests that are high stakes because they're like, if I don't pass this, I'm going to fail the class. This is worth, most of my grade or whatever. So building in assessments throughout the semester where they have the opportunity to turn it in, get feedback, and revise, and then so it becomes a process rather than this super high stakes final evaluation at the end. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess like what I wanted to know is like, are there like specific activities that you encourage faculty to do with AI for students? I mean, given AI's rapid improvement, like the days of, writing essays are over. So
That depends on who you ask.
well, true, but I guess how should we start structuring our assignments or educational activities so that it's still relevant and utilizes AI?
So for some reason I'm still having difficulty.
Can I
Yeah.
try something here? Yeah.
I was just saying,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
have the same question after he's talking, is so what you're saying is that if I use evidence-based teaching practices, like I ensure there's engagement in my classroom, I teach them how they should be using AI in the classroom, and I make them so engaged with the content that we're delivering, and then I change my assessment format, then they aren't going to use AI to cheat. They'll learn about how to use AI appropriately, and then so it's just using evidence-based practices in everything you do. Like, so
Yep.
when I build my Canvas course, I
Yep.
should make sure I have built-in interactions and options for digital and also verbal participation, right? So we
Yes.
use
Student
evidence-based
choice.
practices to
Yep.
prevent AI plagiarism, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So kind of on that same note,
Sure.
and this plays off what you're talking about, is like you mentioned best practice of giving people choice, and some people prefer to type their answers versus speak up about it.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, that's opening an opportunity to do it. So do you ever restrict the choices for this very reason? One, to get people to engage, and you got to learn how to talk to people, and or to prevent the plagiarism.
Okay, so
or do you always go to choice in UDL?
I think you're getting at a question that I've been asked multiple times by other people. They have asked me, okay, so, you know, how do you, does this mean that writing is going to go away or whatever? And, you know, if you're giving them different choices, like, basically what it is it depends on the outcomes of your course. So if you're teaching a writing course and they need to know how to write, of course, you're going to want to have them produce writing to see that they know how to write. But if it's not a writing course, you can assess them in a different way. Like, you don't have to require writing. You can have them do a video. So this is part of UDL, that choice, right? Like choosing how they want to present or demonstrate what they know. So they could do an MP3 recording. They can do a video of themselves talking about the subject. They could choose to do a portfolio final project rather than writing a long essay, right? And so if they don't need to write, why make them write? Unless it's specifically a writing course. It really depends on what do you want them to be able to do by the end of class. So you go back to your learning objectives, right? I hope that kind of like brings it full circle. Other questions?
It is time.
Okay.
So
Anyway, thanks for coming. My name is Eric Talbert. I work at Idaho State University, and my supervisor pitched this conference to me, so I've never been before, but I started looking into it, and I thought, it'd be fun to try to present. And so when I pitched this idea, I didn't totally know exactly what the audience would be, but I kind of had some guesses on it. But just curiously, how many people would consider yourself in a support position? Okay, most of you? Okay, all right. And how many people would say you have multiple constituents? Like people that you serve. Okay, good. Okay, fair enough. So I guess kind of preface this is think about like what is your equivalent, right? So I start off just laundry listing efficiency things, and I asked some colleagues to share, and so that's kind of where I try to make it relevant. I think what's your equivalent of what I'm showing here? So real quick, just a background was some influential things. Has anybody heard of the theory of marginal gains? All right, so go check this out. And I didn't put a barcode on here to get these resources, but I have some cards in the back and up front, and I'm happy to share this and or follow up with sending you these resources. But this guy was he was hired as the British or United Kingdom cycling coach, like I forget when, like in the early 2000s or whatever, and the British cycling team hadn't won a contest or hadn't been relevant for many years, right? And this guy like took and broke down every component of the cycling thing and thought, hey, if we can make everything 1% better and then put it all back together, we can have some marginal gains, right? And then it's developed, and there's a lot of good talks, and probably way better than I'm summarizing it. Again, this is just an influential thing that I thought about, right? So not everything is gonna that I'm gonna tell you today is gonna like radically change your life, but try to keep this in mind as we talk about them. So just some examples of what this guy did. He had his team travel with their own bedding, their own pillows, and the theory was that way they can have continuity in their sleep, right? So he was like really at this micro level breaking this down. And that's the other thing too, is we always often think about efficiency in macro levels, but I'm trying to be like, well, you can make a difference at the micro level as well. Another one is, anybody heard this guy, or Barry Schwartz? He's got a TED Talk where he talks about the paradox of choice. And I have anxiety about, being efficient and making choices. And this guy kind of puts it in perspective. He talks about like because we have a lot of choices, it doesn't necessarily make it good, right? In other words, he opens up with a tale about how he went to his small town grocer and they had like 80 different salad dressings. And like, it was just salad dressing. It's not a big choice, but yet here he was fretting over it. And then when he picked it, he's worried about, did I get the right one, right? So these are kind of like the world I live in, and it's good for perspective to remember that not everything we do, has to have like a weight to it, right? And sometimes it's better to just pull the trigger. And then this is another influential speaker that was on my mind at the time, even up until last night. He talks about procrastinating. He's got one of the most watched TED Talks on the internet. And basically, he kind of makes this point that we're all procrastinators on some level, and that there's like deadline motivated procrastinating, where you have to do the presentation, so you got to get it together. And he uses his own TED Talk as that example. And then there's other things that don't have the deadline, and that's where it can get dangerous, right? Like if I'm making a goal to, I'm going to improve my life somehow, right? I'm going to lose weight, whatever. There's no deadline on that, right? And so that's easy to kick down, and that's where procrastinating can kind of get dangerous if you don't ever have the deadline that brings out the panic monster that motivates you to finally get it done. Then then it can be troubling, right? So anyway, he has makes some good points about being efficient, right, and using procrastination as a motivator of sorts. All right, so then we'll just get in a couple, and again, those are just kind of background ideas. Hopefully you can go check those out and see if they make sense to you or not. But so a specific thing that one of the first things that I learned about recently was schedule send, right, on the email. How many people have done it? Haven't? Okay. Actually, I haven't done it that often, but it occurred to me in higher ed, a lot of what we do is cyclical, right? And so I found myself sending like a version of the same email that I sent last semester or semester by semester. And just so you know, my job is I support video conferencing between a satellite campus in Meridian, Idaho, and Pocatello as a main campus, right? So we're connecting classrooms. Well, first step of that is we got to get the faculty to create the Zoom meeting on their account for their class, right? And we've got a process for this, but inevitably they forget or it's not on their radar. And so I've pretty much every semester I'm emailing faculty, hey, can you make your meeting for your PT 707 class or whatever? And I'd done a version of this so often that I'm like, hey, I should just make a schedule send and then put this out. I can just say, like, write it in my downtime, right? And then schedule it to go out, 2 weeks before, figure out what those deadlines are. So again, find your equivalent and think about how many emails have I rewritten 80 times during your job, and see if you can, gain some efficiency by using schedule send. Another thing is go check if you use a calendar app or even your email as an archive, like go see what were you sending a year ago, right? Because sometimes this doesn't occur to you, and then if you actually spend time to study it and go, wow, I guess I really could find some efficiencies here. So think about using your email archive as a idea generator, and also your past calendar to do that. My wife works here at Boise State, and she said, oh yeah, I use that for, she's a manager, and of course it's fun to acknowledge everybody's birthday. So she has a schedule sent out. She found everybody's birthday once, took a fair amount of time to set it up, but then 2 weeks or 2 days before that person's email, an email goes out, says, hey, please sign the e-card for Sally, and then everybody gets to go to the Sally, and then on the day of, she has to go to the, they use one of these memes, I don't know, there's a ton of different little digital card things that you can use. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing. It's not always necessarily work, but even just the more casual stuff. So there's nothing magic about it, and that was the purpose of that little thing. So kind of made that point already. Forgot I had bullets on here. There we go. Does anybody else have a quick example? Something you can use schedule send for? All right. If you think of a good idea, you can share it. I am getting close on time quickly, though. So I'm going to just go through these. Automate your tasks. Think about what you can do to make it automated. And here's a quick example is we have Classrooms Connect, and they have projectors that turn on, and a lot of times it's easy enough to go push it on there. But sometimes there's not an instructor in that room, right? In other words, instructor's on the far site, and it's just students coming into the room, and they sit down, and this teacher will talk, and nobody turned the projector on, right? So my boss figured out a way, or my old boss, I should say, colleague said, we can program these touch panels, we have Extron devices, such that when there's a connection, it'll ping the projector to turn on automatically, right? So it's kind of a simple thing, but it saves a lot of time, right? And it makes people sit there and go, hey, we can't see what you're presenting because the projector's not on. So just think about little things like that you can automate. Man, I burned through this. I talked too much. I'm at 8 minutes already. I'm gonna skip some of my examples, but we can come back if there's more time. This is a simple one, just like learn keyboard shortcuts. If you're really into specific software, like I used to do a lot of video editing, and it was like massively helpful in Final Cut Pro, for example, or Adobe Suites, if you can learn some of these. But just Alt-Tab is a popular one. Anybody know what that does? Yeah, just jogging through your apps, right? So you can go look these up and figure out, but these are just a couple that I use. Quickly, Windows P came in helpful today, so I could quickly access my display settings and get this to be a second monitor. Go ahead.
Gmail has a lot of keyboard shortcuts that you can implement too, so you can just quickly
Awesome.
archive things and label them.
Cool. So look in Gmail too, and all of these things, most of these have this, have shortcuts that can make a small difference again. This one is start off as kind of a joke because I used to go down to one of my colleagues and ask him a question. He was very quick to get stuff conjured up, and I said, "How do you do this?" And he was evangelical about triple monitors. Right? I have 2 monitors, but he's evangelical about 3. And then, funnily enough, a different colleague sent this little meme yesterday, which I'd actually seen before. But I will say, being a 2-monitor user, it proved my efficiency, right? Just because I don't have to switch around and sort stuff. So if you haven't done that, explore that possibility, because I think it really does make a difference, and there's probably people here that could back me up on that. So dual monitors made a pretty big difference here. How many people in a Zoom meeting where somebody's like, I can't see the chat because this window's blocking that, right? Yeah, so if you do a lot of Zoom meetings, if you work with people that do, maybe can even help efficiency for other people as well. Kind of going along with that schedule send is you can make a template. Similarly, little reminder emails, prompts. You can make a template and store that in your Google Drive or whatever your shared storage is. And then, I check them every now and then because nobody likes a generic thing that was clearly written a while ago. But if you craft it and spend the time crafting it such that it can be universal, you can go plug in the customized things, and you can repurpose those things, and you can share them with colleagues too, if that's helpful. So, man, I'm already at 10, so let me just get through these real quick. Yeah, these are just different tools. So I was talking about, like, when I get to work, try to log into everything I'm going to use for the day, and anticipate the things that you need. We use this term called a tweaker. Anybody use that term? You know what I'm talking about? So just a small little screwdriver, right? A lot of AV people need those things. So carry them with you. I always try to have a pen on me. I've had past jobs where I was like, a utility knife and gaff tape was pretty common for that. So anyway, I'm gonna just stop this because I clearly didn't get my timing.
Let's see, applied acoustics. All right, it might be ambitious to refer to this as applied acoustics in 10 minutes, but let's see what we can do. I am Jeremy with Biamp, and that's all that I'll give you for an introduction. Meet me at the booth if you want to talk more. It's the lightning round, so here we go. An end user contacted us looking for information about our conferencing systems. That's normal enough. I happened to be a bit busy the day that he called. So I called the customer back a day later. The first thing he says, don't worry about it. We decided to go with a different brand. Let's call it ABC. He explained that their system was simply cheaper than ours. Yeah, what followed was naturally an awkward conversation, as you might imagine. I wanted to see if I could learn something more about what the project was, and maybe show that we were a better option. That is the sales guy in me, I will not lie, but I'm an engineer at heart. So even the sales guy comes from an engineering side of me. So with the customer feeling like his research and decision process were being challenged, he, of course, was not really going to change his mind. And really, why should he? I don't know which of my products he happened to be thinking of, right? He didn't say. He just said, we went with this one. They're cheaper. So I don't know how he saw them as equivalent. I honestly don't even know how he knew the pricing because, well, it's... Anyway. So it made me feel like one of those doctors where you've got the patient who comes in with a super rare disease. I realize that his phone says coronavirus, but comes in with super rare disease that they diagnosed on their own or with the help from Dr. Google or Dr. Wiki or... Yeah, So I recognized that the customer wasn't interested in my expertise. That hurt. But I wished him well, and I moved on, or at least I tried to. But I am a thoughtful guy. So as an audio engineer by trade, my first words were not, well, let me tell you about our Super XYZ 9000 and all of the wonderful, amazing things it can do. No. My first statement was a question. How big is the room? Said, I'm not sure. I think it's about 20 by 20. And then as we talked a little bit, he changed his mind and guessed that it was more like 32 by 32. 50% difference. Anyone? How high is the ceiling? Not sure about that either. And I'm not saying this to pick on him either for not knowing, but these are the first questions most AV people will ask. So what was I missing here? All my experience screamed at me that this was the wrong way to select a system. He chose a product because he thinks it's what he needs. He may have even been told, hey, this is what you need. But mostly he's hoping it will do the job. So he's running on hope. And it's that hope that was driving him to defend the selection. Meanwhile, I was actually still honestly curious to know more about the room because I was still wondering what the right solution would be. It doesn't turn off. As an audio guy, I have a certain love of analog. That's not actually mine, but it was a picture that I saw online. And for those of you who know what those things are, there you go. It's open reel tape and a turntable next to it. Looks like a Technics SL1200. So I don't know, maybe they're a DJ. It's not really hi-fi. Anyway, so I like analogies also, and I like to pull the conversation away from the domain that we're discussing and into something that's more familiar and more comfortable. So consider this concept of selecting a car. You need 4 wheels and an engine and a steering wheel and maybe a couple of seats. But this car is quite a different choice than this car. That one feels like it's going to eat the little one. And neither one of those is going to be a particularly good choice for, say, a mom who's trying to shuttle 3 kids to daycare every day. So that customer I talked with was an IT guy who had been tasked with delivering a conferencing system for the big boardroom. Indeed, he mentioned that his task was to improve on the existing system. They had already installed an all-in-one soundbar and found that it couldn't capture voices further back in the room. Microphones here, not capturing there. Clearly it was not my brand. More on that later. That's a discussion for the booth. So the company had already selected what is probably a good piece of hardware, but they deployed it in the wrong kind of space. And I felt pretty certain they were about to do that again. I'm pretty sure I was in the shower the next day when this thought came to me, which is why I say Eureka as a tribute to Archimedes. For those who no, this is Eureka. I have discovered density. Anyway, conferencing systems, in particular, the microphones and speakers you select for them, they are not a computer peripheral. They are an architectural peripheral. A conferencing system is something you add to a room. So we have to make sure it is compatible with the room just as much as it makes sure that it's compatible with the UC engine. My guess for the guy on the phone is that he hadn't selected the product for the room. He selected it for the function and simply hoped it would be the right one. And why not? That's the job it was designed for. That's a tire pump. That's a tire. Why wouldn't do the job anywhere he tried to do the job? Good on that guy. So lots of folks build great equipment, but different models are built for different spaces and applications. If we take a look at this room, I think we can agree that's not the right camera, even though it's got our name on it. That is not the right camera for that room. Simple as that. This is probably not the right display, as much as we all love and miss. We've certainly all seen exactly that kind of situation, though, right? Displays that are too small and cameras that are too small for rooms, webcams trying to do a room that's 25 feet or 250 people. It's easy to see when it's video. It's harder to see. Let's raise hands. Who has ever been on a conference call where the network was running slow and suggested everybody hit that button? Why? Well, because it's the bandwidth. It's the video's taking up a lot of bandwidth. And here's an important thought, though. It's because we know that as long as we can still hear each other, we can still have the meeting. Right? This picture doesn't actually matter nearly as much as the sound does. The broadcast television audio guys have a joke about that. Do you know what they call picture without sound? Surveillance. So So yeah, have some audio in the room. It's a good idea. It's important for the voices to be heard. That's why we're putting microphones and speakers in there in the first place. But remember, those should be a peripheral for the room. So let's think about what kind of room system's going into. It used to be that a conference room or a conference system went into a conference room, a big wood-paneled room and things like that, big cushy chairs. But today, it could be a 10 by 12 huddle room or a 45 by 40 lab classroom. And folks who were in my previous session there are going to recognize some of these pictures. It's amazing. Or hey, a 200-seat lecture hall. Realistically, these days, your dining room or living room might be a conference room system. And in the case of hybrid classrooms, this is probably the far end color, right? Using a headset, maybe, if we're lucky, trying to have the same experience they would in the physical classroom. So back to the big lecture hall. We've been doing sound and video for this for years. We know how to do stuff for playback. The new trick is, what can we do to deliver student voices into the call and such? We have lots of microphones that we can choose from. Once upon a time, that was the start of the collection that I had at the university recording studio. And we have lots of different options for speakers. Not my collection. That just was a fun picture. So, we have all these places, and we know that they each have their place where they can really shine. How do we decide? So I want to give you this little set of tools to take away. Info to gather. I know, it'd be nice if I could just give you the answer. Here is the answer. Figure out the function of the system. What is it supposed to do? Is it a live sound system? Is it a conferencing system? Is it a hybrid system? It could be any of those things. It could be something else entirely. But know what the function of the system is, and jot that down. What kind of room is it going to go into? Is it going to be a huddle room or a conference room or a classroom or an auditorium or a football stadium? Whatever it happens to be. Check out what it is. Figure out the size and the shape of the room. So length, width, height also, because if we're going to put ceiling speakers in, we need to know how high the ceiling is. So know something about that. And this is the formula. So realistically, it's fairly easy. Function of system, function of the room, size and shape of the room, materials and finishes. For the room, is there carpet? Is there grid tile? Are the walls hard lid? Is there polished concrete? Is everything glass? If you drop a pin on the floor, does it echo so much that it makes your ears hurt? Is there a lot of noise in the room? Are there any known issues? HVAC sounds are a big one. Is there a whiny motor? Is it next to the highway and we get traffic noise? Know what's going on in the room, and then call your favorite audio person. Now, I say that with a caveat. Not all audio folks are built the same. Some are very much into this, some aren't, and some will say, here's what I use every time, that's what I do. But realistically, find your trusted expert. You've got them. And if not, talk to folks, make some friends, and get to know folks in the industry. And say, honestly, hey, I've got a room, I need it to do this kind of function. It's this kind of room. It's this big. It's got these finishes. And it's got this issue with noise. And I'm trying to do conferencing. What's my thing? And the good ones will say, hey, we have a thing for that, or maybe we don't. Maybe you need somebody else's thing for that. And they'll find you the right microphone, the right speaker, and they will match it to the room. And kind of as a parting thought, just because something is certified, it still might not actually be the right fit. So make it work for the room. The UC system will follow. If you fuss over things and say, well, this is Zoom certified, and not to disparage Zoom, they're coming in next, I think. So I've got to be nice. But just because it says it's Zoom certified doesn't mean that it makes the space a Zoom room. Just like putting a Ferrari engine into a VW Beetle is not going to turn it into a Ferrari. We want to make sure that the room is sorted out first. The UC engine will follow. Realistically, everything's compatible with them. The certification process is just a badge. So, just because it's certified, the UC engine will come along for the ride. And hey, this one I actually got to get to the end slide and say thank you very much for your patience. I'm Jeremy Krug with BIAMP Systems, and come visit us at the table and enjoy the rest of the lightning rounds and the show.
Woo! Hey everybody, how are you? Strap on. Let's roll. So for those of you who I didn't get to see you this morning, thank you for coming. Thanks for being a part of this. So my purpose here as a Zoom room educator, which is my official title, is going to lean in on this session more on the educator side. Been teaching for 30 years, 25 of those via distance because I'm in the sticks of Southeast Oklahoma, and love using this technology. It's allowed me to teach some classes that I never would have got to even have make. It's allowed me to teach classes I wouldn't have make. But the important thing is that from a Zoom perspective, technology lives where you live as a faculty member. All right, so that's what we're going to drive in. What software do you currently rock? This is not an AV session. Okay, but I'll be bringing in AV as we talk about it in the next hour from now, 15, 30 minutes from now. So, how many of you are aware of the Zoom LTI Pro, aka LTI 1.3 plugin that's available for you for Canvas, Sky, Moodle, Blackboard, D2L? Perfect. Okay. So this tool, we being Zoom, okay, putting that hat on for a second, we don't do a very good job of telling you when updates happen and new features. So consequently, I'm going to walk you through some of the latest, greatest, and then you can go, Lance, don't care, or Lance, yeah, where do I turn that on? I won't have time to show you where to turn it on, but I will in the booth, okay? So that little QR code right there, if you did not already have access to marketplace.zoom.us and that application, that's where you would go to set that up. Now let's rock and roll over here into Canvas. So this is the course shell that I use to teach teachers when I'm driving in, and just to keep it simple for me and for them, I've got 7 letters in my music alphabet, so I do have to keep it simple. Oh shoot, I'm in a browser. Let's go here. Okay, let's get logged in. Boom. Okay, so to keep it simple, I call it Zoom with Dr. Ford. And as long as you're not in an incognito window, you will have it embedded inside the experience. In the last session, somebody asked me the question, do you support, because we were talking about smart name tags for video, smart name tags for voice, speaker attribution, who said what when, right? And AIC and AI summary. Do you have that inside the learning management system? The answer to that is yes. It is a toggle if you've been using LTI Pro for more than 6 months that you will have to go back and turn on. All right. So what does that give me? That gives me this experience here. So these, oh man, Tam is just demoing the dog out of this. That gives me these experiences so that I can actually have my meeting summary inside here. Now, I was just working with Debbie. We released a week and a half ago. It's not rolled out to every data center across the U.S. yet, so if you log in and you don't see it, don't freak. Just tell me, we'll get a use case, we'll get a case ID and get it released. We just released more summary templates. What do I mean by more summary templates? Those of you who have been using AI summary in Zoom, raise your hand. Now's your time. Okay. Those of you who have not, let me show you what it looks like. And I'm going to do this inside a Zoom doc so this makes more sense. So a typical summary of a meeting, and this is a training that I did for teachers in Ohio 2 weeks ago tomorrow. Looks like this. These are the people who were there. This is when it happened. There's the recap. There's the next steps. All that's pulled out of the transcript. Here are the different topic areas as summaries. Okay? Scroll all the way down the bottom. That's all it is. What is the difference between that and a lecture summary? This is the exact same meeting, only as a lecture summary. Key concepts or theories. All right? So these are the concepts that were discussed in the class or the lecture. Important questions raised by faculty and or by student. So when the student is reviewing this content, oh, these are things that I need to be kind of focused on here. Key takeaways and the summary of learning objectives. This is the lecture summary template, not the general summary template. Topic 1 that was discussed, Zoom whiteboard features. The relevant questions and answers to that topic. Mr. Green, That's not like a faux name, that's literally his name. Asked me this question. I responded with this. I was in a Zoom room with smart name tags for video and voice. So it knew that it was actually me, right? So I responded with this. Then Miss Majors asked this question. Both fall into that topic. I responded with this. So from a student perspective in a review process, I'm actually getting the material in nuggets that I want, all subdivided in a way that I need it so I can literally review for this content, okay? We're gonna scroll on down. There's another topic, there's another topic. Actionable steps and assignments. Now, if the teacher or faculty member had said there's a test on Friday, obviously that would be there. If there was a file that was uploaded into chat or a link placed into chat, that would be an actionable, well, some of that would be actionable steps and assignments, but some of it would show up under supplemental resources, okay? This is a lecture summary versus a general summary of a meeting. Much more appropriate for the environment that we find ourselves in higher ed, okay? So, A, summaries do appear here. The docs, the thing I just showed you. I'm logged in right this second as Harry Potter, which is a student in my class. And I don't teach Hogwarts. It's like a vision of mine someday. Anyway, so Harry has been handed this music theory test review over key signatures and time signatures. He's been handed that as a doc. It showed up in his docs environment automatically. I didn't upload that. I literally shared it as a part of class, okay? Here are the key concepts or theories. Here were the important questions that were raised. Again, I'll let you peruse that. For those of you who have music backgrounds, you're like, oh yeah, circle of fifths, you're killing me, Dr. Ford, okay? Key takeaways in the summary of learning objectives, the key topics, the time signatures, the actionable steps. I did say in there that there would be a test scheduled for Friday that would be over chapters 5 through 15, and that they can schedule office hours. The supplemental resources are the diagrams. The clock diagram is the circle of fifths. Oops. The recording automatically got put in there as well from the class. And there's the passcode. So if I put that here, boom, boom, boom. I'm going to click that. I'm going to hit paste. We're going to watch it. So now the student is literally watching the class recording inside the doc. All right? All the materials right there. Okay. Let's scroll on down. There's the whiteboard, the Zoom whiteboard that I did during class. You saw a picture of it in the recording, but if I click on that, it will redirect me over to the actual doc. I'm not signed in as him right now. I signed as him, but that's what that is. Now, why do I care about a doc being embedded versus a summary being embedded? Well, I'm a student, and I need to create some flashcards for my lecture material that Dr. Ford gave me so I can get ready for tomorrow's test. I've got my study buddies. Let's go here. Let's do this. Boom. So now it's going backwards through the transcript, and it's generating flashcards for me, front, back.
That's cool.
Okay? And yes, sir.
Sorry, with a summary, are those timestamped in the recording by any chance?
Yes, they are. No, you're great. They absolutely are. So I can create the flashcards. A little cheat on myself here. There were multiple times in my life, and probably never happened to you, that it's the night before a test and I completely forgot. Okay? So I used a tool called a mnemonic. Not a demonic, but a mnemonic. It was kind of demonic of me to use a mnemonic. But anyway, that's what I did to help me remember it. So there's the mnemonic. Trek to music. There's all. Okay, do your thing. Finish. There's the study requirements. Okay. Let's go back up to the top of the mnemonic. Trek to musical mastery. T-R-E-K. Boom, boom, boom. That's the word I need to know. Trek. I got it. I write Trek in the upper right-hand corner of my test. I know those key words, and now I'm answering your questions. So it literally created, a student created a mnemonic based on that because it's in a doc and not just a static template, okay, as a summary. Is that making sense? All right. So it's not enough for me ever as a teacher to say, this is here, but this is here. Whiteboards from class are automatically spawned inside here as well, okay? There's my appointment scheduler, my meeting summary. All my recordings are posted here. Recordings, we'll have a conversation another day about what Zoom is working on to formalize a more panopto-ish style experience. We'll have that conversation another day, but all of that is automatically posted in my LTI. If you are not using Zoom LTI Pro and you're using Zoom, please call me. Let me walk you through it. take the 10 minutes and explore this with me. All right. That was topic number 1. I have 5 more minutes. Campus scheduling platforms. How many of you use an EMS style tool like 25 Live or something like that? Okay. So the way we released it, it's very confusing at the marketplace. At Marketplace, it's called, and I promised I would bring this up so I wouldn't forget what it's called. It's so confusing that I can't remember it. It's called Zoom EMS, is what it's called. All right? What does Zoom EMS do? If you have Zoom rooms in classrooms that are being reserved for upcoming classes in the fall, and you want to automatically associate Zoom meetings in those rooms at the booking level, the EMS level, this will take that booking level information and push it all the way down into the LTI. Okay? So mass scheduling, push down. Now you come to me and you say, well, Lance, I'm not using 25 Live, I'm using the EMS, called EMS. Then I'm gonna have work with you, and I've got a little guy, he's an awesome dude, his name's Corey Mead. He's the lead programmer on this project, and he's gonna say, well, let's look at the fields you need, because this literally maps the fields from EMS, pulls that data over, and populates the faculty as the host, the room, and puts on the Zoom room the upcoming class that's going to start. In my world, for those of you who weren't here, 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, automatically start, automatically stop for faculty members. Then they get an email that says, hey, your summary and docs have been posted to your learning management system, and I kind of tweaked the summary to add 10 questions so they could use it to spawn the next class if they wanted to. So they kind of get a jump start. Or you can do a jigsaw activity. I have one template that some teachers like, it's a jigsaw activity. So whatever you want to do. But we now have the ability to take that information and push it down. I've got 3 minutes, so I don't have time to talk any more about that, but suffice to say, it is there. And if you have questions about it, please, please, please come by and see me this afternoon. Digital signage. How many are using Zoom Rooms digital signage? Anybody? Okay. So the good, the bad, the ugly. You do have to own one Zoom Room on your account. All right? That's $500 annually list price. Debbie, are they ever going to pay $500 for a Zoom Room? Okay. So I saw that head shaking up front. So the cool part about digital signage is if you have one of those licenses on your account, you can provision up to 250,000 screens with content at no additional cost.
I don't know if that's gonna be enough.
I know. It's a stretch. It's a stretch for some people. If you need a subtenant, Debbie can hook you up with that too. And then you get another 250,000. So what do I need to be able to do this? You need one Zoom room, and you need some sort of hardware behind that screen today. Don't even ask, not yet. I don't have it as an LG app or a Samsung app yet, okay? But suffice to say, because I said that, you now know we're exploring that option. Windows, Mac, stick, PC, don't care. There are two purpose-built devices that I'm aware of. One's called a AnySign by Embrava. One's called a Roomcast by Yealink. They're both PoE devices. Retail on those is about $350. So that's retail. So if you're going to do this in mass, again, let us know. We'll help you find those things. But you may already have Corbett, SeedSpire, Spectrio. We're working with AppSpace right now to get them up here. So if you have some other softwares that you're currently using, we can repurpose that on these players. If you're like, Lance, those things, I'm being recorded. Those things may be outside my budget. How about I put it that way? Those tools may be, okay, great. Do you have a Google Drive or OneDrive? Do you have folders inside there where people are putting pictures? Okay, well, just use that as your content for your digital sign, and then let the people who run that floor, that department, that building, put their own content up. I think Hamilton Gordon, who's a friend of mine who's down in our booth, don't know if he's been demoing it yet or not, but we do have E911 as a part of Zoom Phone, and I can override all those signs and lock all the experiences, even if they're in a live Zoom class. Okay, so digital signage, really, really important. This E911 thing, I just bring it up to basically say that when you get to this signage area up here, that's what I was talking about. So when that's triggered, the internal safety team gets a call. They also get a chat message inside Zoom Team Chat that says, this is what just happened. Do you want to let people know about it? You say, yeah, in fact, I need to let this building and this floor know about it. Boom, all signs in that floor and building are automatically populated with that content. So this all ties together through phone and rooms. I know my mandate is rooms in here right this second, but that's why I wanted to bring that up, because this is not just a one-off for us. All the tools play together from a Zoom perspective. It is now 10:45, and I got a presentation that starts at 11. But do you have any questions for me? Anybody? These three tools, signage, rock what you got, okay? Your EMS/scheduling software, and please, dear Lord in heaven above, please, on behalf of all your faculty, get the LTI 1.3 and turn on some things for people who would want to play with summaries, docs, recordings, okay? Whiteboards, yes.
I guess you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but is there a difference in the tiers as to what you have access to? If we have the Zoom LTI in general, is there a does everyone have Pro? Is this an add-on?
Great, there's no cost, there are no add-on costs. The one thing you have to do is go to marketplace.zoom.us, go into the configuration, and there's a toggle for each one of these features. So typically, when I'm working with universities who have the LTI Pro already rolled out, they also have a sandbox up there. You fill in the blank canvas, Sakai, Moodle, and they have about 4 or 5 faculty who play in the sandbox, and they start toggling them on for that instance and say, is this something as a faculty council that we need to take to the rest of the faculty, right? Because if you go in there and you turn all that stuff on, some faculty are going to go, ah! But some are going to go, oh, this is so cool, I want to try this, this, and this. So I recommend that you have that sandbox with that second instance of the LTI Pro. We let you provision as many as you want, doesn't matter, and then turn it on there and let them play with it. Great question, absolutely. Anybody else? Bueller, yes.
Do you know of anybody using the EMS product with Ad Astra?
So, yes, I'm working with a university that shall remain nameless that's in the Northeast right this second on that very topic. We're all, us Zoomies are first dot last at zoom.us. I'm lance.ford@zoom.us, okay? Ping me, Zoom team chat me or email me. I'll get you with Corey and we'll look at the fields that need to be mapped from Ad Astra and make sure that we can get those mapped for you.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Kind of related question, what about Canvas?
100%. So yes, I can push from that EMS down into Canvas, no problem. And I usually demo that, but in the lightning round, I'm pushed. I can't say my name in 15 minutes. That's part of
running ragged.
Now, PhD just stands for piled higher and deeper, and I can say that because I have one, right? So we like to talk a lot. So sorry about that. Anything else for me, family? All right. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It's all good. Have a great day. Come see us.